Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we are talking about tax credits versus tax deductions. So as gig workers, freelancers, self-employed individuals, and people in business for themselves as a whole, we have a lot of ways that can reduce our taxable income and the amount of taxes we owe to the IRS. In most cases, they can be broken down into two of the following categories: tax credits and tax deductions, which they sound very similar, but are very different by nature. So with that said, we are talking about tax credits and deductions, the major differences between the two, and everything in between. But before we do that, let's go over a quick disclaimer. The content of this video does not contain and is never intended to be legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is advised that you conduct your own research and consult qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. Also, thank you to GigTax for verifying this information and making this video possible. What is a tax deduction? A tax deduction is the amount you subtract from your income when you file so you don't pay taxes on it. By lowering your income, deductions lower your taxes. You will need documents to show the expenses or losses you want to deduct. Your tax software will calculate the deductions for you and enter them into the right forms. If you file a paper return, your deductions go on Form 1040 and may require extra forms. For example, if your AGI or adjusted gross income is $100,000 and you have a $10,000 tax deduction, this would bring your taxable income to $90,000. And at a taxable rate of 25%, you are paying $22,500. Simplified and standard versus actual expenses and itemized. Now, in terms of tax deductions, there are two ways you can go about applying them: the standard or simplified methods, or the actual expense method. I have made very many videos on how you can apply each of these methods within different categories, but in short, some categories in which you could choose between an overall rule of thumb, which is a standard deduction, or use every single receipt in that category to reduce your liability, the actual expense method. Both have their benefits and disadvantages, so it's vital to consult with a tax professional on what makes sense for your personal business situation. What is a tax credit? Tax credit directly reduces the amount of tax that you owe, giving you a dollar-for-dollar reduction of your tax liability. A tax credit is valued at $1,000, for instance, lowers your tax bill by the corresponding $1,000. This works very differently from a tax deduction, simply based on where the value is applied. Let's revisit our last example for a second. If your AGI or adjusted gross income is $100,000 and you have a $10,000 tax credit, your taxable income is still $100,000. And at a taxable rate of 25%, you are paying $25,000 before the tax credit is applied. Now, when we apply the $10,000 tax credit, your liability is now $15,000, which sounds a lot better than a tax deduction, right? Well, yeah, if you qualify for them. If you have kids, you could claim a child tax credit for a while, but to a single guy living on their own, you can't just claim kids. I can't go to my neighbor's place and say, "Oh, that's a sweet kid that you got there.
Mind if I use them for a write-off?"
That doesn't sound creepy at all. However, there are a fair amount of state and federal taxes that you can apply for, even if you're just a single person, and depending on your full situation. So discuss with your tax professional about what your options are in order to apply for said tax credits. Refundable versus non-refundable. There are two different types of tax credits to be aware of: the refundable tax credits and the non-refundable tax credits. If you qualify to take refundable tax credits, things such as earned income tax or the child tax credit, the value of the credit goes beyond your tax liability and can result in a refund check, which sounds pretty awesome, right? However, a non-refundable tax credit means you wouldn't get a refund check, meaning that if you don't owe a lot in taxes to begin with, you don't get the full value of the tax credits if your tax liability hits zero. In other words, a $600 tax bill combined with a $100,000 non-refundable tax credit doesn't get you a $400 tax refund check. It's just a $0 tax bill. Well, they're pretty cool though, but this also requires you to be diligent and for you to know the difference between the two different tax credits. Which is why it's important to always keep the proper documentation and consult with tax professionals during the tax documentation process in order to know what you're eligible for, which is where GigTax is here to help. Filing your taxes on time, accurately, and promptly is an inevitable aspect of being in business for yourself. For every hour spent on navigating tax season alone, however, you miss out on potential opportunities, precious moments with loved ones, and expose yourself to financial risks. Recognized as the leading tax preparation service for gig workers, GigTax is dedicated to simplifying the process and saving you time, energy, and money. Founded by Joseph Mayo, a seasoned gig worker with 65,000 deliveries across 7 platforms now since 2020, GigTax addresses the overlooked, overcharged, and underserved needs of gig workers in the financial realm. Driven Wyld subscribers can take advantage of an exclusive 77% discount on GigTax's tax prep, bringing the price from $538 to $124. Act now to get this price before GigTax's calendar is booked, because GigTax helps those just like you make the wisest and most effective tax decisions on your business and personal tax needs all year round. Secure your spot today with GigTax using the description link below their Instagram page. Slide into his DMs with the word wild and get back to what you do best, making the most amount of money in the least amount of time in the safest possible way. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.